Greetings everyone, welcome to Just Advanced, and this game was played in the Sinquefield Cup, and with the white pieces we have Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and with the black pieces we have Alireza Firouzja. Prodigies are not having the best of tournament aside from Pragananda. Pragananda is having a great year. He's won a lot of tournaments and actually got like second or third position in few of them, and beating a really strong grandmasters like Levan Aronian, Fabiano Caruana, Hikaru Nakamura, and even Magnus. So Prague is having great year, and I think he'll continue his streak. But other than that, Alireza Firouzja, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and even Gukesh, they are not having the best of year. But most likely, they will recover, and when they recover, they'll definitely do it with a bang, and as they always do. They crush everyone whenever they are in their absolute form, and I think we'll see a lot of them in FIDE Grand Swiss. So hoping that one of them, or at least all of them, would make some sort of a comeback, and we'll get to see great fights. But here Nodirbek is facing Alireza Firouzja, so it's going to be a great matchup. So without further ado, let's start with this game. We have c4, c5, g3, g6, and now just going for bishop to g2. We have English opening, symmetrical variation, fianchetto variation, whatever you want to call it. Bishop to g7, knight to c3, and just knight to c6, knight to f3, and now just d6. Just going for a very solid structure, and most likely, if allowed, that is going to be played. But just castles here, knight to f6, now d4, and now just going for this castles. D captures, and bishop to f4, but now just knight to d4, asking, are you maybe interested in trading the knights early on? And Nodirbek says no, because Nodirbek has not won a single game in Sinquefield Cup. He would definitely love to actually beat Alireza here in this matchup, and even in the last match he would like to get a win. So his position would not really be that bad, because right now I think this is round 8, and I guess he is 1.5 out of 8, which is not that good. But again, if he's able to win this, he would be I think 3.5 out of 8, which would be really, somewhere along the line would be acceptable, because even the top Fabiano Caruana and Pragnanda has actually are just 4.5 or 5 out of 8. I'm gonna have to check, but I think somewhere they're just on those lines only. So he would be at least not in the last spot, and somewhere, if even if you're not having a good tournament, you're able to win last 2 games. It just helps a lot with your confidence. So I think let's see what happens here. Bishop to e5, now just knight to c6, bishop to f4, and just knight to d4. Both players trying to repeat moves, but I'm sure Nodirbek is just not gonna go for a draw in this position. He, with the white pieces, come on, Nodirbek never goes for a draw. Rook to e1, we have bishop to f5, knight to h4, now attacking the bishop. Bishop to e6, bishop caps on b7, just grabbing a clean pawn. But again, now once rook comes in, you're going to lose the b2 pawn as well. So here bishop caps on c4, not going for that. Now we have e3, pushing the knight back, knight goes there, and yes, it's a threat. It's gonna ruin your pawn structure, but then again, you're gonna have a pawn structure which is somewhat like this. So it's a trade-off. Bishop to e5, but now just comes this queen caps on d1, rook captures, and rook a to d8, but just knight to f3. And up until now, Alireza's position is absolutely amazing. There is no issues. He has the knight, rooks are connected, bishop is on c4. Somewhere along the line you could even push a4, so that there is no weakness in the position. Also, white structure is fine. Both players are playing absolutely amazing chess, no issues. But bishop to d3 now, and that would be absolutely amazing if you could get that in. But after knight to e1, now just bishop to f5, and bishop to f5 is just very weird, simply because of the fact that this knight is blocking your retreat squares, and somewhere along the line you have to be careful that that bishop might just get trapped. And a4 now by Nodirbek, knight to g5, and now bishop can retreat, f3, and there are some ideas. So you have to be very cautious here as Alireza. But Alireza in this position actually goes for knight to d7, and this just is not the way to play chess. You made some room for your bishop, now you block it with the knight. It's just not the way. What you want to do, you could play bishop back to c8, but it's basically an invitation to a draw, because after bishop captures, rook captures, most likely it's going to be a draw. And if you don't want to trade, then you go bishop to c6, and I think having a bishop on c6 would be very much what Nodirbek would enjoy. But again, it's a trade-off, and let's see where the position would have gone from there. I think that should be both players should have agreed on. That's what both players should have played. But here f3, knight to d7 now, and now there are some actually chances, because now bishop caps on g7, queen king captures, but now g4, and where is that bishop going? There are not a lot of squares even for that knight. And now bishop to e6, but now this comes h4, and now this is not a good position. And now just bishop to b3, trying to get 2 pieces for the rook. Here h captures, bishop captures, rook captures, so you have some compensation, but it's not a lot. Knight to e5 was played, just targeting that. Bishop moves, so you'll be able to capture that. Bishop to a6 now, but just rook caps on d1. knight captures, rook to d8, knight to f2, and now just going for this rook to d6. So all in all, Nodirbek does have two pieces. I mean, most likely it's winning, but you have to understand you still have to convert. And sometimes, you you almost know that it's winning for you, but in the end game it's very very crucial that you play absolute perfectly. Otherwise this could go for a draw. If you lose too many pawns, this could go for a draw as well. If your pieces aren't that coordinating well, then it could lead to even you losing. So you have to be very much careful. Bishop to b5 was played, but now just comes a6, pushing the bishop back. Bishop goes back, and now just rook to b6. So how do you defend the pawn? Well, you just go for knight to d1, and that pawn is very nicely defended. Rook to b4 now, targeting the a4 pawn. And I mean, you could actually just grab this pawn, and that's exactly what now the big should have gone for, because here after rook captures you play bishop back to e2, and now there are some ideas of f4. You defended everything perfectly, and now it's time to push and slowly break open the position, and in the end game try to outmatch Alireza. You are clearly better, you are up a pawn, you are up. I mean, you have two knights for the rook. I mean, even if you didn't have the bishop, you'd still try to hold this position to a draw. So why not just push for a win by capturing the a6 pawn? Because if rook captures and you still and black still has the a6 pawn, you have to understand somewhere along the line that pass is going to be very very annoying to stop. But here just f4 directly, and now just comes knight to d7, and now that pawn is under fire, because here knight to c2 was played, but just rook captures, and now you have to deal with that passer for the rest of the game, which is going to be very annoying. Knight to c3, we now rook to a5, bishop to c4 now, just putting some tremendous pressure. Also just inviting f5 here, Alireza, but just f6, and now just going for this g captures, knight captures, g5 now, pushing the knight back. You cannot go here, you cannot go here, you don't want to go here, because then you're just out of the game entirely for the rest of the for all amounts of time. So here just knight to e8 was played, but now just comes king to f2. We have knight to d6 attacking the bishop. Bishop moves forward, and here all of these squares are covered, so king is basically boxed in. If you want to go, you're gonna have to go the other way around, obviously not like that. So here just after h6 you play g captures, king captures, and now just going for king to f3. We have knight to b5 asking for a knight trade. A knight trade will eventually benefit Alireza, because you have to understand, two knights against a rook and a bishop, a rook and a knight against two knights against a bishop is very very helpful, because knights can defend each other. And most likely than not, I've shown a game of Gukesh actually winning against Wei in Olympiad, and he had two knights against a rook in the end game, and he was able to convert that to a win. That was spectacular. And I mean, two knights are always stronger. Knight to e4, so here just knight to d6, but now just knight captures. He trades and he goes into an end game. So is it going to be beneficial or is it not going to be beneficial? Well, let's just see. E captures, king to e4, rook to b5, but now just comes b3, defending everything. But Alireza could have some drawing chances, but he's going to have to be very very precise. Rook to a5 was played, but now just comes knight to e1, rook to a1, and just knight to d3. And again, this could be a long game, but again, you have to understand that it's very very difficult to convert three pieces against a rook and a knight. It's just very very difficult. You have to play every move precisely, and in end games it's just there are a lot of rooms for error. So here just a5 now, bishop to c4, but now just comes a4. We have b captures, rook captures, and just king to d5 defending the bishop. G5 now, just trying to push something, but just f5, not allowing any trades. G4, f6, but now just comes rook caps on c4, king captures, and maybe just pushing that pawn all the way. But Nodirbek calculates precisely that this is completely winning for white, and he converts. King to g6, now king to d5. We have king captures on f6, knight to f2, and now just g3, attacking the knight. Knight to e4 check, king to f5, and just knight caps on g3. And you must be thinking, how the hell do you win this endgame? You cannot capture because the pass pawn pushes, and you cannot push until and unless you cannot even go here, because just captures and you've lost the only advantage you have. Well, Nodirbek finds a way. He goes for king to g4. Alireza goes for king to g4, and he goes for knight to f1. We have king to f3, king captures on d6. This is the idea. This is how you win this endgame. This is a beautiful beautiful move, because you have to understand that pushing the pawn doesn't really help. By the way, it was also on this move, on move 60, that Alireza Firouzja resigned the game, and Nodirbek got his first victory of the tournament. Beating Alireza in 60 moves is absolutely spectacular. But you have to understand how this wins. For all the newer audience here, you have to understand that c4 does not work, because this king to d5, you play c3, king to d4, and now the idea is just to protect this pawn with the king so that the knight can move. And if you push c2 now, we have knight to d2 check, king to e2, and knight to b3. You're always covering the queening square, and whatever you do, let's say you come here, I'm just going to push, and you're just going to bring a queen, captures, and push, and it's just completely winning. So that's why Alireza, after king caps on d6, resigned the game. He foresaw all of this, and Nodirbek got his first victory in the tournament. Absolutely amazing. I mean, he's playing fearless chess, and with fearless chess, you have to understand that uh, you try to push every game to a win. I think I've shown a few games of his from the Sinquefield Cup against Fabi as well. He tried to go all the way in all of his matches, and it's just sometimes it just doesn't come your way, and you have to take the decision. You have to take the result as it is and just be happy about it. I mean, there is no second thoughts about it. But yeah, it was a great game. Definitely an amazing end game that he calculated absolutely precisely. And with Alireza, it can always get tricky. But yeah, he calculated precisely, got the spectacular win. Let's see how he performs in the next round, which is this is going to be the final round, by the way. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned to the channel and stay updated. And I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you very much for watching.